6 Sinister public transport encounters that expose haunting secrets you never knew existed. Every city has its shadows, lurking just out of sight, and Chicago was no exception. Lisa, a single mother, navigated the streets with a practiced nonchalance. After another exhausting shift at the downtown restaurant, she felt the familiar relief of the night air against her skin. But that night was different. A chill crept in, suffocating the usual hum of the city. She overheard 2 men at the bus stop whispering, their voices low and furtive. "You hear about those girls, missing since last month?" one said, glancing around as if the shadows could listen. Lisa's heartbeat quickened. The city's heart was beating darker tonight. The bus arrived with a jerky lurch, and Lisa stepped aboard, wrapping her arm around Ethan, who had dozed against her. As she settled into her usual spot, the clack of the wheels felt ominous. The passengers, all strangers, seemed to carry secrets of their own. A man in the corner, meticulously sipping his coffee, locked eyes with her. Something about his stare made her skin prickle, like a spider creeping up her spine. The warmth of the bus vanished. Instead, she felt as if the air was thick with dread. Each stop she had grown comfortable with felt like a countdown. One by one, passengers disembarked, slipping into the night without a sound, leaving Lisa feeling marooned. It seemed that every sharp noise echoed around her, a reminder of the potential danger waiting just outside. She glanced around, her heart racing. The remaining strangers shifted uncomfortably, and she couldn't shake the sensation of being watched. As a woman with a frayed scarf shuffled past her, Lisa caught a glimpse of fear in her eyes. Had she overheard the men, too? Lisa's mind raced with fragmented news stories, terrifying tales that could easily slip between dreams and nightmares. "Stay close, Ethan," she whispered, but he merely stirred, blissfully unaware of the danger tightening like a vice around her. It took her a moment to realize that the seemingly charming man had moved closer. His smile was intent, disarming, like a snake luring its prey. Every fiber of her being screamed to pull Ethan closer, to shield him from whatever darkness lay ahead. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The bus lurched to a stop, an unexpected jolt that sent Lisa's heart into her throat. As the remaining people on board exchanged nervous glances, she caught snippets of conversation, fragments of stories, each hinting at connections to the man. "Everyone's got a story, don't they?" one whispered, eyes darting nervously. The laughter felt manic, laced with a tension that was almost palpable. Lisa felt the walls closing in. "Are we all really who we say we are?" a voice from the back piped up, dark and unsettling. Lisa's breath hitched. The man with the coffee smirked, his sinister charm taking on a dangerous edge. As the flickering lights above began to stutter, Lisa knew that every second mattered, that the truth about this night was about to rise from the grim underbelly of her city. The bus rumbled on, and as her grip tightened around Ethan, Lisa steeled herself for the chaos that awaited them. Would she uncover the haunting truths or become another piece of the city's dark tapestry? The bus doors swung shut with a heavy thud, sealing Lisa and Ethan inside with the remaining passengers. The atmosphere turned oppressive, filled with the whispers that curled around her like smoke. The laughter behind her faded, replaced by something more sinister. It was a low murmur, an incantation of fear rising in pitch. Lisa risked another glance at the man with the coffee. He still watched her, his smile now a thin line, as if he found her terror amusing. "Next stop," the driver announced, his voice flat and emotionless. It didn't match the urgency that prickled through Lisa's skin. The bus rolled forward, but each moment felt like a ticking bomb. The lights flickered again, plunging them into brief darkness, then returning to cast ghastly shadows that danced against the walls. A shrill laugh erupted from the back of the bus. A young woman with tangled hair was staring at the businessman beside her, eyes glinting with a manic glint. "He's got a story, don't you think?" "We all do." Lisa's breath came in shallow gasps. It felt as if the very air was charged with a malevolent energy ready to burst forth. "Stop!" someone shouted suddenly, a man whose sharp features cracked like frosted glass. "You can't let him go." The bus jolted, and the driver shot a confused look in the rearview mirror. Lisa's heart nearly stopped. Fear traced through the passengers, the tension was electric. The young woman's laugh cut through the panic, sounding almost like a caw. "What are you talking about?" another passenger asked, voice shaking. "What do you mean?" Before the man could respond, the lights flickered out again, and a chorus of gasps erupted. Ethan shifted in his sleep, and Lisa's heart sank as she lowered her head to check on him. The world outside the bus fell away, they were all imprisoned in this floating metal cage of secrets and lies. When the lights returned, chaos followed. The man who had warned them was gone, vanished into thin air. Lisa's heart raced. Where had he gone? The bus lurched again, a sudden stop making her brace against the cold metal frame. "Let us get out of here," Lisa cried, shaking Ethan awake. He blinked, confusion marring his sleepy little face. She could almost hear the panic escalating in the passengers, drowning her reason. The businessman took a step towards Lisa, his smile returned, smug and unsettling. "Don't you want to see what's out there?" "No." Her voice was stronger than she felt. "We need to get off this bus." In the chaotic disarray, another passenger, older, frantic, banged on the window, pleadingly. "Let us out." He sounded like he was teetering on the brink of hysteria. "There are things out there you don't want to see." A shiver ran down Lisa's spine at the desperate edge of his voice. Whatever was lurking outside, it wasn't normal. The man with the coffee took a step forward, blocking her path with an oily, deliberate manner. "You'll want to stay, trust me, there's nowhere to run." The bus jolted as if it had been struck. A loud crash echoed outside, followed by a sinister silence that stretched far too long. Lisa swallowed hard, eyes darting to the people around her, horror and uncertainty reflected in their faces. Was this a trap? She felt like prey surrounded by wolves. As fear clawed at her, she felt the warmth of Ethan's little hand in hers. "Mommy, what's happening?" Her heartbeat thundered, the question echoing in her mind. "I don't know, baby." The fluorescent lights above flickered once more, and the bus engines died, leaving nothing but the deafening silence. The air felt thick, suffocating, as the truth of their situation sank in. When the doors finally opened, would they enter a nightmare or embrace freedom? "Stay close to me," she whispered fiercely. And then the chilling sound of footsteps echoed from the darkness outside, each rhythmic clomp driving her fear deeper. The world on the other side awaited, yet something more sinister loomed, ready to prey upon the unknowing. What would they unleash by stepping into that night? Suddenly, the doors swung open, creaking like an old grave. Cold air rushed in, and with it came a heavy scent of damp earth and decay. Lisa's heart raced, its thrum echoing in her ears as she shielded Ethan, pulling him close. They peered into the abyss beyond the bus. A shroud of thick fog settled like a thick blanket on the ground, swallowing whatever lay ahead. "Stay close, don't move," she hissed, urgency clawing at her voice. The passengers shuffled slowly towards the exit, their faces pale and tense. Shadows moved in the fog, but they weren't just figments of the imagination. The chilling sound of laughter dripped into the air, slithering around her like a serpent. "Where are we?" Ethan asked, wide-eyed and trembling. Lisa didn't have the heart to answer. She hesitated. The businessman's eyes glinted in the low light, fixing on her, brimming with some predatory delight. "You'll want to experience it, dear. The truth lies out there." "No. We're not going out there." Lisa shouted, but the frantic pull of curiosity and fear had started to tug at others. A couple, gripping each other, stepped out first. They were swallowed by the fog, shouting to each other only to have their words dissolve into nothingness. A soft rustling arose from behind them. The older man, it seemed, had found himself standing right by the bus. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his voice was a frantic whisper, "You have to listen. If we wait too long, it won't be safe here either." Lisa felt the blood draining from her face. She turned back to the fog, to the laughter that continued to pour from its depths, mocking her resolve. The remaining passengers huddled, many backing away from the exit. "What if this is how they take us?" someone murmured, glancing nervously at the fog and then to the businessman, who remained unaffected, still grinning. Then a piercing scream split through the silence, echoing against the bus windows and freezing the air. Another figure appeared in the fog, a woman who stumbled out, her clothes torn, breathing heavily. Her eyes widened as she locked eyes with Lisa, a momentary flash of recognition, quickly replaced by horror. "Run! You have to run!" she shrieked, and before anyone could process her words, she whipped around and plunged back into the fog. Lisa felt like she was caught in a vice, terror gripping her throat. "Why do they keep going out?" a voice whimpered from somewhere behind. "What are we supposed to do?" "Then let us go," Lisa cried, heart racing, hoping to herd them back into safety. But it was too late. The fog swirled and thickened, tendrils creeping like ghostly fingers, somehow alive. Lisa's breath caught in her throat as the shadows beyond the bus began to take shape. Figures, indistinct at first, began forming from the mist, twisted and warped, moving closer, their features obscured but their intentions clear. "Get back!" the frantic man shouted as he banged against the emergency exit door, but there was no escape. The faces of the passengers bled fear into the dim light of the bus. The children wept, and adults tried to shield them as the figures advanced, moving like smoke, creeping closer. "Stay with me, Ethan." Lisa gripped her son tightly. Every exit had become far more uncertain than the door they had just opened. The silhouettes emerged further, whispering secrets that sent chills coursing down her spine. As the mist grew thick, the passengers' murmurs turned to panicked cries. Lisa's heart thundered, her instincts screaming at her to act. What awaited beyond the fog? Would stepping out mean running into the unknown or facing a fate worse than any nightmare? Panic surged through her, and then something tugged at her senses. Behind the fog, in the distance, a low growl echoed a sound that made her blood run cold. "Mommy!" Ethan's voice broke through her thoughts. "Hold on tight, Ethan." But before she could take a step, the mist wrapped around the bus, sealing them tighter. The growl grew louder, deep and menacing. "Let us in!" a voice shouted from outside, desperate and frantic. It was a chorus now, filled with primal fear as something lurked just beyond the visibility of the fog. Something was waiting, it always had been. And the door to the unknown had just swung open. What kind of horrors would swarm upon them? What reality would they face when the fog finally thinned? The growls surged louder, a deep rumble that resonated deep within Lisa's chest, shaking her resolve. The fog twisted and writhed, darkening around them. Shadows prowled like wolves, their shapes now more defined, but utterly grotesque. Faces appeared, twisted with agony, eyes vacant and mouths smeared with what looked like blood. "Mommy!" Ethan whimpered, clutching her side, his innocent fear amplifying the dread around them. Lisa could hardly breathe. A sense of impending doom hung thick in the air. "Get away from the windows!" she shouted, her voice raw with panic. She pulled Ethan closer, her gaze darting around to see the others' trembling forms huddled in the back seats, wide eyes reflecting the horror closing in. Suddenly, the bus rocked. Something heavy slammed against the metal side, causing a collective gasp from the passengers. The businessman's grin shattered, fear overtaking his features. What was that? he whispered, his bravado stripped away. "Look!" Someone shouted, pointing at the fog, which pulsated menacingly. A figure burst through, none of the others, the woman who had screamed for them to run. But she seemed different now. Her eyes were wide but devoid of sanity. Her mouth was smeared with something dark, a smile stretching too far across her face. "Help me," she croaked, her voice a strained whisper, but the mockery in her tone chilled Lisa to the bone. "Run!" Lisa screamed, shaking her head as she scanned for an exit. "We need to stay inside." But the crowd had begun moving toward the emergency exit, drawn as if by a magnetic force. The older man stood near the door, sweating profusely. "We can't hold it back. It will take us too." "Stop!" Lisa yelled, but her voice was drowned in the cacophony. Screams echoed, mingling with the laughter that had once floated from the fog. The woman outside screeched again, thrashing as if something unseen gripped her. The businessman shoved open the emergency exit, the hinges screamed in protest as he leapt into the fog. "I have to see." "Wait!" Lisa cried, but he was already gone, swallowed whole, the tension snapped. Desperation clawed at her being. "Ethan, stay here." Without thinking, she bolted towards the door. A terrifying thought gnawed at her, what if leaving the bus wasn't the worst option? She glanced back at the room full of people staring at her wide-eyed, paralyzed by indecision, and then the ground shuddered again. The fog convulsed, and something slithered through, thick and serpentine. Lisa knew they had to act. They had to make a choice. Sprinting back to the boy, she seized Ethan's tiny hand and pulled him toward the back. "We're leaving." "What?" "No." He cried, but she couldn't explain, couldn't afford a moment of hesitation. She glanced back at the door. The fog thinned momentarily, revealing the silhouette of the businessman, his mouth agape in a monstrous grin, blood trickling down his chin. Another howl rang out, a guttural sound that made her bones tremble. She could already feel it, the tug of that twisted reality pulling them in. "Why does it want us?" Ethan shouted over the rising panic among the passengers. "Because something inside that fog needs souls." Lisa shouted back. But the truth was, she didn't know. She felt it, a primal energy rippling from the mist, a hunger for chaos that made her skin crawl. Suddenly, a burst of light flickered through the fog, illuminating the space for just a second. Shapes darted back, whispering urgently. She caught a glimpse. There were shadows changing form, wicked sharp teeth visible, eyes glowing menacingly. "Mommy!" Ethan clung tighter, terror filling his voice. Lisa turned back, her heart hammering. She could feel the tightness in the air growing heavier, pressing against her lungs, reminding her that running was no longer an option. The shadows closed in, and the reality of the bus and its occupants became hazy and far away. "Please!" Someone wailed from the back, but it was all chaos now. A flash of courage ignited in Lisa's chest. "We need to face them." But what awaited them outside was more than they could ever imagine. A wave of fog rolled in, veiling the figures again, and for one harrowing moment, she wondered if running or facing the truth was the bigger risk. As the fog overwhelmed them, suffocating and thick, Lisa took a deep, shuddering breath. What had they unleashed by opening that door? And just then, she heard a new sound, a low, guttural growl. Closer now. What would happen when that darkness finally revealed itself? Would they be able to escape, or were they already too late? Lisa felt a chill race down her spine. The growl transformed into a chorus of anguished screams, echoing off the bus's walls like a nightmarish symphony. Shadows pulsed and rippled, as if the fog itself was alive, writhing with anticipation. Her heartbeat quickened, each thud matching the deep, reverberating growl. "Mommy, I'm scared." Ethan's tiny voice, thick with panic, pulled her back. She knelt down to face him, her grip tightening around his small hand. "I know, baby. Just hold on tight to me, okay?" But inside, uncertainty gnawed at her. How could she keep him safe when she felt so helpless herself? Suddenly, the metal frame of the bus shuddered violently, rattling the seats as if something massive was slamming against it. The passengers screeched, their screams morphing into hysterical sobs. Lisa glanced around, desperation clawing at her chest. They were all trapped, with no way out. "Open the door. We need to get out," shouted a frantic woman, her mascara running down her cheeks like dark rivers. Panic spread like wildfire, and Lisa knew they had to act. "Ethan, listen to me," she said with shaky resolve. "We need to get to the back of the bus. It's our only chance." They clutched each other tightly as they maneuvered through the chaos. As they reached the rear, a sickening squelch echoed from just outside the door, the sound raising the hairs on her neck. Lisa's eyes darted to a dark shape looming near the front, a rippling mass that drifted in and out of focus, its hunched silhouette whispering promises of dread. "Mommy!" Ethan shrieked again, his small fingers digging into her arm as he pointed. What had once been a mere figure was now becoming more distinct. Elongated limbs twisted from the fog, moving unnaturally, led by a head that hung at an unnatural angle, its vacant eyes staring hungrily into the bus. Instinct kicked in. "We need to find a way out," she called to the others, her voice nearly lost in the storm of terror surrounding them. The businessman suddenly appeared, staggering back into their view, his clothes torn and face smeared with a dark, sticky substance. His eyes were wild, a manic glint reflecting the horrors lurking outside. "You don't understand. It gets inside your head. It wants to play." Before they could react, the bus lurched again. The emergency exit door hung open, as if beckoning. A thick, dark tendril slithered through the opening, curling and twisting like a serpent. The passengers shrieked, some pushing toward the front, while others scrambled to escape any contact with the creeping dread. Lisa's heart raced. "Stay close, Ethan," she ordered, forcing herself to remain calm. But even her own voice quivered with fear. "What if it's too late?" Ethan whispered, his small body trembling. "No, it can't be," she breathed, glancing around. They were running out of time. The fog thickened, swirling with sinister intent, shadows stretching far too close. In a moment of sheer adrenaline, she lunged for the emergency exit, pushing through the terrified crowd and into the unknown. The cold air greeted her like a cruel friend. As she emerged, the darkness enveloped them entirely, cloaking her view in murky black. Ethan stumbled beside her, hiding behind her like a shield. "Mommy, where are we?" he whimpered, panic lacing his voice. Then came a sound, another growl, but this time, it resonated from somewhere deeper, more sinister. The ground trembled, and from the shadows, a wretched figure emerged. "Your souls belong to us," it hissed, the voice dripping with malice. A surge of terror coursed through Lisa as she realized they were utterly surrounded. The faint glow of distant street lamps cut through the oppressive fog, revealing grotesque faces, contorted in laughter and rage, closing in on them. "What do we do now?" she cried out, her mind racing, trapped in a whirlwind of despair and fear. And then, before she could gather her wits, the fog surged forward, consuming everything what awaited them inside this malevolent embrace. Would they find a way to escape the clutches of the dark, unforgiving ether, or was it already too late? The darkness felt alive, wrapping around Lisa and Ethan like a suffocating blanket. The fog dripped with malice, filling her lungs with an icy dread. She squinted into the shadows, barely able to discern the twisted silhouettes edging closer, their eyes burning with an unholy light. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Ethan along as they darted into the murky void. The sound of uneven footsteps echoed behind them, a cacophony of terror as the unknown followed, relentless and hungry. She could hear the whispers now pulsing and dripping with ancients' hate. "You can't escape, you belong to us," that voice lingered, curling around her thoughts like smoke. It mocked her, taunted her with every labored breath. "Mommy, I'm scared," Ethan cried, his voice cracking under the weight of fear. "I know, baby, but we have to keep moving," she replied, adrenaline sharpening her focus. They stumbled forward, the ground uneven and slick. She desperately sought any sign of safety, her heart thundering in her chest. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced the fog ahead. Hope bubbled inside her for just a moment. There. She began to run, dragging Ethan along, the faint glimmers of light growing brighter with each step. But as they approached, the light flickered and died, vanishing like a mirage. The whispers escalated into a shriek of laughter. "No! Not again!" She clutched Ethan tighter, feeling the heat of his small body against her cooling skin. Each step backward felt like sinking into quicksand. Then she spotted a hulking figure shrouded in the swirling fog. It loomed ominously, a grotesque replica of what they might have once known. The face twisted, and an elongated mouth stretched open, revealing rows of teeth yellowed and sharp. Lisa recognized the businessman. His manic smile was replaced with a hollow stare, his features dripping with that dark, sticky substance. "Help us," he rasped, voice rasping yet echoing a chilling chant. "Stay away from him!" She screamed, desperation clawing at her. She turned quickly, her instincts flaring. Dread coursed through every vein. Any interaction could mean doom. Ethan suddenly jerked her arm. "What if he knows how to escape?" "Don't you dare!" she growled, panic surging through her. The creatures around them seemed to sense her rising fear, their laughter growing louder, mocking her resolve. "He's just a shell. We cannot trust him." The businessman lunged forward, his expression a mix of agony and madness. "You were right to run, but that one tea save you," he choked out, the words clawing free like ancient spirits. With a swift tug, Lisa pulled Ethan behind her as she sprinted away, gasping for breath. The fog swirled, thickening, as if it had its own intention, and with it came a pulse, a rhythm that echoed her panic. Ethan stumbled, falling into the damp earth. "Mommy!" she turned, her heart shattering at the sight of him. The fog coiled around his legs, trying to snatch him away. "Ethan!" she screamed, lunging down, grasping his arm like a lifeline. The darkness shrieked, angry at their attachment, and the ground trembled beneath them. "Your choice will decide, stay or suffer. Don't listen. Trust me," Lisa shouted over the din. She pulled Ethan to his feet, their hands now locked together tightly. In that moment, they caught sight of a shadowy figure lurking behind them. It filled her with dread, its form flickering like a candle's flame. The laughter crescendoed, and then suddenly stopped, replaced by a suffocating silence. Lisa's breath hitched in her throat as everything hovered on the edge of catastrophe. "What's happening?" she whispered, the darkness seeming to pause, waiting for her next move. And then, a deafening roar erupted from the depths of the fog. Shapes materialized with a speed that stole her breath away. Visions of agony and despair danced before her eyes, dark memories, dark futures. At that moment, Lisa understood. She wasn't just running from the creatures, she was running from something even darker within herself. "What do we do now?" Ethan asked, his voice a thin thread woven into the oppressive atmosphere. "Hang on," she replied fiercely, stepping forward into the claustrophobic abyss, courage igniting within her. As they moved deeper into the fog, uncertainty loomed heavily. Shadows flickered, stretching like fingers ready to pull them into a void where hope was devoured whole. What waited in the heart of the dark? Would they find salvation or submit to the horrors clawing for their souls? The laughter returned, a cruel reminder that the nightmare was far from over. As they plunged deeper into the choking fog, Lisa felt the darkness close in around them. Each breath grew heavier, thick with the scent of mold and decay. The whispers whispered louder, echoing memories she didn't want to confront. "What if you fail him?" they called. "What if you're not strong enough?" Ethan's grip tightened around her hand, his little fingers trembling. "Mommy, I don't like this place, just hold on to me," she murmured, forcing herself to sound brave. Panic clawed at her throat, but she couldn't let her son see how frightened she was. They stumbled onward, not knowing what awaited them. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath their feet. Lisa stumbled but caught herself, fear surging through her veins like ice. "Ethan, stay close," she shouted, but the boy didn't need telling twice. He was glued to her side, his wide eyes darting around, searching for the source of the dread that filled the air. Then, she saw a glimmer of movement lurking in the dark ahead. It was another figure, this one smaller, like a child. With disheveled hair and tattered clothes, it stood so still it was almost like a statue. Lisa's heart raced. Was it another lost soul or something worse? Who are you?" she called out, her voice shaking. "Help me," the figure whispered, voice thin and brittle. "Please help me before it comes." "Don't!" Lisa yelled, yanking Ethan back. They couldn't trust anyone here. But the child moved closer, eyes wide with desperation. "What's coming?" she pressed, her instinct to protect Ethan overpowering her urge to flee. "It sees you." "No time." The figure squealed just as the air turned electric. An unsettling roar filled the darkness, an ominous, guttural growl that shook the very ground beneath them. The child grinned eerily, revealing a twisted smile. "You have to decide. Join me, or run." Panic surged through Lisa. She yanked Ethan backward, scanning their surroundings for an escape route, but all she could see was the dense fog closing in like a living organism, hungry and ravenous. "Mommy, I don't want to go." Ethan whimpered, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Stay with me, Ethan. Just stay with me." Lisa cried, the dark figure of the child morphing into shadow, shifting in and out of focus. In the distance, she caught sight of something dark, shapes moving closer, silhouettes weaving in and out of the fog, their intentions unclear. Lisa felt a surge of horror. They were surrounded, the chilling laughter rising again, as if mocking their struggle to escape. "Run!" she shouted again, adrenaline propelling her feet into action. They raced past the phantom child, who faded back into the shadows with one last haunting cry, "You're all the same." As they ran, the world twisted around them, and suddenly they stumbled into a clearing. The fog thinned, revealing an old bus stop, battered and decrepit, rust eating away at the metal. Lisa felt a moment of hope. "We can hide here," she gasped, but as they approached, a dull thump echoed from the other side of the bus shelter and then silence. She felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. "Mommy, what was that?" Ethan whispered. "I don't know, but whatever it is, we can't stay here long." Just as she spoke, the air grew colder, a creeping chill that slithered down her spine. Then she saw it, a name carved into the wood of the bus shelter, Grace. "Who's Grace?" Ethan asked, confusion etched on his innocent face. As if in response, the bus stop suddenly trembled, and the whispers turned into a cacophony, echoing her fears. "No escaping. Grace will claim you too." Lisa's heart raced as she turned to flee, but before she could move, the ground shuddered again. The mist rolled and coiled, revealing glimpses of faces twisted in agony, anguished souls trapped within the eternal darkness. "Ethan, run!" she screamed, but just as they made a break for it, the ground erupted. A crack split the earth between them, swallowing tiles and rotten wood, and from it emerged shadows, stretching and clawing. Lisa's heart fell to her stomach as she realized this was only the beginning. What lay beyond the mist? A way out, or deeper calamity? The truth twisted within the darkness, promising pain and despair should they fail once more. Lisa sprinted away from the bus stop, Ethan's small hand clutched tightly in hers. The ground beneath them quaked ominously, as if the very earth was alive, hungry for their fear. Vague shapes trailed behind, extending shadowy tendrils into the fog, and the chilling chorus of laughter echoed in their ears, an inexplicable sound that dripped malice and mockery. "Mommy, where are we going?" Ethan cried, his tiny voice cracking. Anywhere but here. She panted, casting desperate glances over her shoulder. The shadows flickered behind them, closing in like a pack of wolves. They stumbled into a narrow path, bordered by twisted trees with gnarled roots protruding from the soil like skeletal fingers. Cold air washed over them, carrying the faintest hint of something rotten. Lisa's mind raced. What did the child mean? Join or run? It was no choice at all, they had to flee. Suddenly, a flicker of light emerged through the darkness, drawing her attention. Was it an escape? A beacon? She hesitated, then propelled forward, dragging Ethan with her. The light grew brighter, pulsing rhythmically, filling her with a fleeting sense of hope. Just as they neared the source, a thick, swirling mist enveloped them again. Lisa halted, paralyzed by a sudden wave of dread. That flicker wasn't coming from an escape, it was a hollow promise. In the midst of the fog, she could see figures forming, their mouths moving in silent cries. Ethereal, they were barely human, only remnants of what had once been, tormented and trapped. Mommy, I don't like it here. Ethan whimpered again. I know, sweetheart, she replied, her heart aching for him. Just stay close. We'll find a way out. She forced herself to keep moving, pushing past the figures whose eyes seemed to follow them, pleading for salvation. As they moved deeper into the fog, a low growl reverberated through the air, a menacing warning that clawed at Lisa's heart. The shadows thickened, coalescing into darkly defined shapes that shimmered like ripples on water. Panic surged as she realized that whatever had been lurking in the fog was now awake and hungry. Look! Ethan pointed, tears streaming down his cheeks. There's something ahead. Lisa squinted through the thick haze, her fear now mixed with an urgent curiosity. A structure loomed in the distance, twisted and towering, resembling a long-abandoned railway station. Bars of rusted metal lined its entrance, and the glass windows were shattered, jagged edges glistening ominously. A sense of foreboding washed over her. This place felt wrong. They approached cautiously, and as they stepped forward, the door creaked open as if expecting them. Lisa hesitated, glancing back at Ethan, whose trembling lips whispered, "Mommy, maybe we shouldn't," but something pulled her inside, compelling her to keep moving. Just as they crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind them, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Darkness reclaimed them, thick as ink. Inside, the air felt different, closeness and despair packed in every corner, suffocating and pressing. Flickering lights buzzed overhead, illuminating scattered debris, frayed train tickets, rusted artifacts, and torn photographs, faces frozen in panic. "Mommy?" Ethan's voice quivered. Another growl erupted from the shadows, closer now, as if it was hungry for their fear. Lisa turned, adrenaline surging through her. There was no way out. The whispers intensified, swirling around them like a tempest. Once again, she heard the name, Grace. "Who is she?" Lisa yelled into the darkness. "What does she want from us?" Silence followed, stretching painfully against her ears. The growl erupted again, a harsh sound that sent chills racing down her spine. Then, from the depths of the shadows, something stirred. A figure moved into the faint light, and as Lisa squinted, an image took shape. A woman cloaked in shadows, her face shrouded but two piercing eyes stared back, intent and unyielding. "Grace," the woman whispered, a voice deadly soft and deceptive. As Ethan clutched her leg, Lisa felt the weight of dread hang heavy. Was this the entity calling them? Was it drawing them into her darkness? Lisa's heart thundered painfully in her chest. There were no options left. They had to move. They had to survive, but what if Grace had other plans? Could they outrun the terror that was rising to claim them all? The answer loomed menacingly in the dark, waiting, watching with that unspoken quest gnawing at her. She braced herself, ready to face whatever terror Grace unleashed next. Lisa's breath came in sharp gasps as she jerked Ethan closer, every instinct screaming that they must escape. The figure that had emerged from the shadows felt alive, moving fluidly, predatory. Grace's eyes glowed with an unnatural light that pierced the haze around them. "Leave." The word slithered from Grace's lips, a soft hiss that echoed menacingly in the confined space. Ethan whimpered, trembling against Lisa's leg. "I don't want her to touch me, Mommy." Lisa couldn't respond, the air was thick with a suffocating dread. She backed away slowly, dragging Ethan along, her mind racing. What did Grace want? What did she mean by leave? The walls of the station seemed to pulse now, a living entity that thrummed beneath the layers of dust and decay. Shadows flickered like angry spirits, creating a macabre dance around them. "We need to find a way out," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. But the growl had morphed into a chorus of hissing whispers, a cacophony that twisted together, drowning her thoughts. They spoke of despair and longing, of choices made and lost. "Grace. Grace. Come to us." The flickering bulbs overhead buzzed with increasing fervor, casting eerie light through the gloom. Lisa's fingers tightened around Ethan's wrist as she worked to tune out the sonorous call. They had to get away from here. She turned to the nearest exit, a darkened side door that looked as suitable as any. Just as they approached it, the door swung open with an unsettling groan. A gust of cold air swept through, wrapping around her like icy fingers. Intrigued yet terrified, Lisa hesitated. But the growling sent chills skittering down her spine, the shadows pushed closer, like wolves closing in on their prey. "Stay behind me," she urged, taking a step through the door. The hallway beyond was dim and narrow, lined with peeling wallpaper that whispered secrets long forgotten. "Mommy, please." Ethan's voice trembled as he peered into the utter darkness beyond, searching for clarity amidst their terror. "Just a little further," she coaxed, forcing calm into her tone. They needed to keep moving. As they edged down the hallway, the whispers transformed into frantic pleas. Voices layered over each other, clawing at her sanity. "Help us, don't leave us, Grace will take you too." Lisa's heart raced. She could feel them watching, the lost souls trapped in this maze. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Shadows were stalking just beyond the pool of light, undulating along the walls like hungry beasts. "Mommy, I can't!" Ethan cried, pulling away. "Ethan!" She snapped, fear tearing at her heart as she spun around. He stood frozen, eyes wide and filled with terror. Behind him, the walls seemed to shift, reshaping into grotesque faces that grinned in agony and malice. The growl erupted again, closer now, a promise that this place would not let them go easily. Goosebumps prickled along Lisa's skin as she grabbed Ethan's hand once more. "Run!" They bolted down the hallway, tearing past the grotesque decorations that shimmered at the edges, yanking them back. Lisa's feet pounded against the wooden floor, echoing like a death knell. "Where are we going?" Ethan cried, his little voice quaking with every step. "I don't know." She shouted back, fear crawling up her spine as the darkness threatened to swallow them whole. A sliver of light flickered at the end of the hallway, like a distant promise of safety. But as they moved toward it, the air grew heavier, suffocating, saturating with the scent of decay and loss. The whispers crescendoed into a furious roar. "Grace wants you. She wants you." With a final push, they lunged towards the light. And as they crossed the threshold, the world around them changed. They stumbled into a vast room, its walls lined with mirrors reflecting nightmares beyond comprehension, figures trapped, forgotten. A shadow moved swiftly through the reflections, the shape of a woman, always just out of reach. In the center of the room, a pendulum swung ominously, each tick echoing like a heartbeat. "Don't look at them!" Lisa screamed, but Ethan was already frozen, eyes glued to the mirrors that surged with movement, faces crying out in silent agony. As the shadows extended like claws reaching for them, Lisa screamed their names into the chaotic din, desperation fueling her terror. "Ethan! We need to keep moving." But the truth hung heavy in the air. How could they run if they had nowhere to go? And as the final whisper wrapped around her, she understood, Grace would not let them escape. The shadows surged. "Run!" She yelled again, but dread filled the room. But what lay beyond this chamber? What would they find if they dared to reach for the light? In that moment, the very ground shuddered, and the mirrors cracked a warning that the time was closing in on them. Could they break free before Grace's power consumed them? All hope weighed against a fear darker than the shadows closing in. The shadows pulsated with a dark hunger, threatening to consume them whole. Lisa's heart raced. It felt like the end of the line but also the beginning of something harrowing. Ethan remained frozen in fear, eyes wide with horror. "Mommy," he whimpered, clutching her leg. She knelt, every ounce of strength focusing on him. "Listen to me, Ethan. We're going to escape. I promise," she whispered fiercely. "Stay close to me no matter what." With shaky breaths, Lisa propelled him forward, dodging the blurring faces in the mirrors that seemed to leer and reach for them. Each step felt like a heartbeat in rhythm with the pendulum's swing, echoing time ticking away. "Run," she urged again, her voice louder, cutting through the cacophony. Just as they darted into the center of the room, the whispers morphed into screams, a throng of tortured souls lost to the abyss. Lisa turned, shielding Ethan from the reflections that bled anguish, but he craned his neck, eyes widening at the trapped souls begging for escape. "Don't look!" she yelled, expelling every ounce of fierce protectiveness. "Look at me, baby." She saw the flicker of desperation in their mirrored faces, memories of lost dreams reflected back, clawing at her resolve. In that moment, clarity struck. The mirrors were portals, alive, but only if they lost themselves in the fear they could overcome. "Ethan, hold my hand tight." She squeezed his hand as they moved toward the pendulum, swaying in the center, radiating a taunting glow. The shadowy form of Grace hovered, watching intently, her piercing eyes fixed on them, seeking to ensnare every ounce of their fear. "We need to disrupt the pendulum," Lisa felt the urgency ignite, realizing it was a tie to Grace's power. "We must stop it, or we'll never leave." Ethan's small fingers trembled in her grasp as they reached the base of the pendulum. With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa pushed against it. The weight felt almost alive, resisting her push, but desperation poured into her muscles. With a grunt, she shoved again. "Help me, Ethan." "Okay," he replied, summoning courage from the pit of his tiny heart. Together, they pressed harder, their breaths coming in rapid bursts. "No!" Grace shrieked, her hollow voice reverberating through the foggy expanse. Shadows wrapped tighter around them, swirling like a storm, attempts to pull them back from their purpose. Then, with one last grunt fueled by raw instinct, the pendulum broke free, the sound of cracking glass echoed painfully. It swung wildly, casting fractures of light through the room, illuminating the tortured souls trapped in the mirrors. Their cries morphed into a cacophony of relief and lament. In that split second, the shadows recoiled, wailing in despair, their power waning as the pendulum crumbled. "Let go of them!" Lisa shouted, locking eyes with Grace, a fierce challenge lacing her voice. The dark figure flickered, slipping out of focus, as if caught in the light spilling from the pendulum. The fog thickened, vibrating, life swirling as chaos erupted. Lisa and Ethan staggered back, grappling with the crashing weight of emotions. "Mommy, we can't stay," he cried, pulling at her. And she could feel it, the heaviness of the darkness retreating. "Run now!" she yelled, her voice enriched by a fierce fire. They sprinted toward a glimmer at the door, light spilling like honey, soothing the turbulence surrounding them, guiding them home. Ethan pushed ahead, keeping up with her strides, the echoes of the wails behind them gradually fading, reduced to mere whispers, the weight of despair lifting. Together, they burst through the threshold and fell into an expanse of night, gasping for the fresh air that surged around them. Shimmering stars dotted the dark sky, and the bus sat abandoned in the distance, just out of reach. "Did we escape?" Ethan asked, voice tinged with a mix of wonder and disbelief. Yes, we did, Lisa confirmed, her chest heaving with the thrill of survival. We made it. But just as relief flooded through her, she turned back, half expecting darkness to loom again. But no, the fog had dissipated, revealing quiet streets, the memories of agony lingering only in her heart. "Mommy, look!" Ethan shouted, eyes wide. She followed his gaze to a single streetlight flickering, bathing them in its soft glow. They stepped away from the nightmarish shadows, breaths eased, and began the trek home, hand in hand. The air felt lighter, untainted by the burden they had just escaped. Lisa focused on each step, the concrete underfoot solid, grounding her. In the distance, the city hummed with life, children laughing, and voices cheering. "Let us go home, Ethan," Lisa murmured, feeling hopeful for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. And as they walked toward the horizon, the first light of dawn breaking through, Lisa vowed never to look into the shadows again. This was a new beginning for her, a chance to forget the fear and embrace the light. Now, don't forget. If you want more thrilling stories like this, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss any future exclusive content. And smash that like button right now to keep this channel alive and kickin'. Let us feed the algorithm so others can enjoy this wild ride too. Flood the comments section with your reactions and your theories about what you just witnessed. Was it real, or just a figment of fear? And right this moment, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support. Don't wait even one more second. You're part of this community and every action helps more than you can imagine.